As a team, the Guardians of the Galaxy and its members have had many different iterations over the decades in comics, TV, games, and movies, mixing and matching ideas that have morphed over the years for a ragtag group that's harder to define than what you may at first assume. Everyone has their own favorite version of the team, ranging from the far-flung future fighters of the original iteration, to the underdog protectors assembled in Annihilation Conquest, to the pop culture-laced movie team from James Gunn. But when Eidos-Montreal and Square Enix Europe premiered their own unique vision in 2021, with the game titled, what else? Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, I found my own personal favorite version of the team. Unfortunately, GOTG also undersold, getting overlooked in the aftermath of Crystal Dynamics' Avengers game stinking up the joint. Still, for many who played the game, this remixed and matched vision of the Guardians that takes elements from both comics and movies, but isn't bound by either universe, has found a special place in the hearts of fans. Why? I think there's something uniquely appealing about these specific Guardians that captures the thrilling essence of space opera and the beating human heart of deeply flawed people. Ultimately, Guardians is a game that's about vulnerability and maturity. And from its evolving character relationships, to its style of gameplay, to its themes of parents and children, we'll explore how Guardians of the Galaxy is a cosmic superhero story about letting yourself be vulnerable with the people you love, and how it's the only way to truly grow as a person. Before their introduction in the MCU, the Guardians of the Galaxy were a fairly obscure part of the Marvel Comics universe. First introduced in 1969 as a group of space adventurers in the 31st century, the modern incarnation of the Guardians came to be in 2008 through Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning's Annihilation Conquest, pulling together several lesser-known characters to be the cornerstone of the newly reinvigorated Marvel Cosmic alongside Nova. Still, despite their popularity in a section of Marvel, no one would have thought to make a video game about the Guardians until their 2014 film. This would eventually lead to Telltale's game in 2017 and a pinball machine, before the continued popularity of the team led to a truly big-budget AAA game being put into development. Debuting on October 26, 2021, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was developed by Eidos-Montreal under director Jean-François Dugas, produced by Olivier Prouel and Hubert Corriveau, programmed by Daniel Letendre, art by Bruno Gauthier-Leblanc, written by Mary DeMarle and Casper Hartman, with music composed by Richard Jacques, and published by Square Enix Europe. Like Eidos-Montreal's previous Deus Ex games, Guardians is as focused on its action gameplay as it is its conversations, giving players the chance to interact with other characters and choose how to pursue discussions, react to the outlooks of team members, and positively or negatively impact the flow of combat. The game is set after a massive intergalactic war with Thanos, and finds the Guardians already formed and beginning to make their name throughout the galaxy. But Peter and the legally incorporated Heroes for Hire accidentally set a series of events in motion that caused trouble with multiple powerful groups including the Nova Corps, Lady Hellbender, the Lethal Legion, and most dangerous of all, the Universal Church of Truth, which seeks to subjugate the galaxy for the glory of their dark god. The adventure that follows is half a search to pay off debts that could end their lives, and half fighting to save the galaxy from a growing, sinister threat. All the while, Peter catches up with old flame Corel and her young daughter, Nikki, who may just be his daughter. What I really love about the Guardians game is that its world is completely its own, taking the aesthetic, character archetypes, and music of James Gunn's films, and blending them with the breadth and history of the comics. The Eidos GOTG universe has just enough familiarity to help players hop into a world with lots of backstory, but to also be completely unpredictable in where the story might go. For example, like the movies, this Star-Lord is obsessed with classic rock, was raised by Ravagers, and is a mercenary. But like the comics, he is descended from Spartak's royalty and lost his mother due to an alien attack. Each character is a blend, and as a fan of both the comic and movie versions of the team, it's fun to see where each influence is felt, but also to just go with this story as its own thing. In general, I also really like the visual and vocal interpretations of each character. John McLaren's Peter is just enough of a dude bro, with the game having him take his codename from his favorite hair metal band as a kid, signifying his attachment to the past. Eidos even made an entire Star-Lord album that I think is really fun. In what might seem like a missed opportunity, the game puts players solely in the shoes of Star-Lord instead of letting players control each member. While I think there is absolutely a story that can be told by letting players step into the shoes of each Guardian, and might be a great way to expand the game if a sequel were ever to happen, that's not really the intention here. And I think GOTG benefits from players having a stable point of view, progressing Star-Lord's relationships and watching as he matures as a person. Combat also revolves around Peter's point of view, with players controlling Star-Lord and giving commands to the rest of the team. At times, it's a little too button-mashy and grindy as enemies come in bigger and bigger waves. But I also think it's executed in a really easy-to-use manner that rewards strategic thinking, knowing when to deploy each member's special attacks while raining down a hail of elements on your targets. But the best part of the combat here is that the characters and their relationships remain in focus, with Star-Lord's huddle motivating the team through speeches.
So stay on track, keep your eyes open, and shoot for the stars. Who's with me? Die, thieves!
Can't wait to take him down!
To retain the game's emphasis on maturity and vulnerability, each member gains a new ability in accordance with their growth as a person. When a character is able to face the past, let go of what's been holding them back, and grow closer with the team, a new ability is unlocked. Simple gameplay mechanics that work in lockstep with the story and game difficulty progressing, but something that I think is a really nice touch that underlines the larger themes of the game. As Peter meets Nikki and eventually goes on a mission to save her from the church, Star-Lord's story is a reckoning with how the loss of his mother has kept him stuck in the past, and how he has to let go to be a father to a daughter he never knew. Outside of Peter, each Guardian has a past trauma that's holding them back from fully connecting with the rest of the team. Gamora was used by Thanos and killed her sister Nebula during the war against the Titan. Rocket was an experiment and escaped from his captors only to lose his friend Lila. Drax's family died at the hands of Thanos, leading to him being turned into a weapon for revenge. And Groot, well, he's Groot, the god of the Universal Church of Truth, revealed to be the Magus, the dark side of Adam Warlock, and the mind-controlling spell known as the Promise, prey on the grief of victims. The Promise traps a person in visions of their loved ones alive and their past lives restored. No need to move on. Everything you want is here. Our heroes and this temptation will have to collide.
Groot, see if you can...
GOTG starts on Peter's 13th birthday, where his mother Meredith gifts him with a pair of blasters left to him by his alien father, and begins to reveal the truth to her son, until they're attacked by a Chitauri squad that kidnaps him and kills her. It's the day that shaped Peter into the person he'd become, and the game returns to this moment several times. First through flashbacks, and eventually through the mind control of the Promise. Parent-child relationships are a cornerstone of the game, both positively and negatively affecting characters who are often stunted by their inability to reconcile with the ways in which their parents shaped them. Peter has to ultimately reject the illusion of his mother to save his team. Drax must deny the vision of his deceased wife and child to return to reality. Gamora needs to reconcile with how Thanos turned her into a killer to accept her teammates. And Nikki is haunted by the death of her mother, saving her from the entity within the Soul Gem, pushing her to fully accept the illusion of the Promise and become the church's matriarch. This is emotional, arrested development writ large across the cosmos. The key themes of GOTG are vulnerability and maturity, with an emphasis on how one isn't possible without the other. Throughout the game, each of our characters, and Star-Lord in particular as this is ultimately his story, are pushed into moments where they must choose to be vulnerable with the people they love, in order to overcome obstacles and grow closer as a found family. In doing so, they become more mature as people and, with greater maturity, are able to become increasingly vulnerable without the fear of being hurt. Of course, it's not a perfect growth curve, and the messiness of each character is what makes these Guardians so great. At the end of the game, Peter's pep talk in the mirror is full of self-doubt and flubs, trying to talk himself up to be the leader, friend, and surrogate father that he has become.
They have good qualities. I mean, Drax is fearless, and he's been a dad. Groot, he's compassionate and protective. Rocket can teach her about crawling into things, and Gamora. Gamora. She knows about honor and discipline and girl stuff.
Maturity is not a straight line, and GOTG never forgets that. One of the most frustrating elements of superhero comic books is that true maturity of a character can never be maintained, because publishers need to keep characters frozen in amber, forever viable as the specific version that became popular in the first place. The toys must ultimately be put back in the toy box for the next author to play with. One of the few advantages the MCU has over comics is that, when done right, characters can have complete, consistent arcs. And I think the Guardians have been one of the best examples. There's a moment in the first Guardians movie that perfectly encapsulates what the arc of these characters should be, and that's the Take My Hand scene. I'm sure you know it already if you're watching this video. Peter grabs the Power Stone to stop Ronan the Accuser, and as its power courses through his body, about to kill him, he sees a vision of his dying mother, reaching out for his hand. The hand she extended to him as a child, and the hand he ran away from and was never able to grab again. We see that, in reality, it's Gamora reaching out, and Peter's choice to take her hand isn't just the chance for him to share the stone's energy with the rest of the team, allowing them to survive and win, but also that final, all-important moment of vulnerability they need to become a family. It's easily one of my favorite moments in any superhero movie, and it really underlines the emotional honesty that ties the film's comedy, characters, and style into something truly meaningful. The MCU Guardians are a group of damaged people that have years of emotional baggage, choosing each other even at their worst moments. As a game that can last up to 30 hours, Eidos' game has the advantage of giving players so much more time with these characters, and I think the developer really takes advantage of this time for something more than just lots of action. Outside of the main storyline, Guardians gives players optional additional interactions to explore the vulnerability and connection of our characters. This is done through dialogue branches mid-mission, often while exploring levels, and through hidden collectibles that are directly tied to the pasts of each member. While none of these ultimately change the outcome of the game, and the on-screen text epilogues for each character unlocked by the hidden collectibles are a little underwhelming, they enrich the experience. The story, the characters, and the dialogue are easily my favorite parts of the game. That's not to say that the gameplay itself, battle loops, and graphics are bad. I love its hypercolored approach to alien worlds. But what really sings is the way these truly vibrant and fully realized characters bounce off one another and the story they're part of. I will say that my two issues with the game are that the gameplay loops probably go on just a little too long, extending levels and the battles the team has to get through to meet their objectives past where they should end. I really enjoy the way combat is handled and especially how the team dynamics remain in focus during these fights, but sometimes it feels like the developers were putting in too much bang for your buck. But hey, good problems, I guess. The second issue is that Gamora is given too little focus in the game. By the time we're part of the team, Thanos is gone and Nebula is a dark memory. Gamora's arc is about being open and honest about her past struggles with the team, which come out when encountering the church's exploitation of children. But these inform the actual levels of the game far less than the rest of the members, who are each given time to be the focus of several hours. But by the end of the game, each member feels like a really well-rounded individual that we've come to know and love. The strength of superhero stories in any medium is that they are ultimately metaphors for real-life struggles and triumphs. Don't tell superhero fans, they haven't figured this out yet. The reason so many of these characters have resonated with fans and been able to sustain decades of monthly comics is because the best heroes and villains extrapolate human struggles and desires into vibrant, outlandish adventures. The theme of found family has been interpreted through so many superhero comics over the decades. It's no mistake that this is at the heart of the first modern Marvel comic, the Fantastic Four. And in the years since, it's been seen through the lens of everything from Doom Patrol to Paper Girls. The key element here is that these teams aren't squads compelled by duty or even official capacity, but instead by emotional, human connection to one another. The Guardians, and definitely the video game version of the team, is the epitome of that found family motivation. When Abnett and Lanning launched the modern incarnation of the team, they were formed as an official group tasked with protecting the galaxy in the absence of the Nova Corps. A scrappy, small team prone to infighting with many flaws threatening to tear them apart, but still an official team. Over time, and especially under the influence of James Gunn's version, the comic book Guardians morphed into a family that needed each other to survive both the external threats they faced and their own deep flaws. That's the central metaphor of the Guardians. How we as people find others that strengthen us, bother us, and stick to us. And how we make the choice to care about them every day. Yeah, crazy space dragons, spooky mind-controlling cults, and intergalactic assassins may try to disrupt that connection, but it only grows stronger when our heroes overcome those threats, because they choose each other again and again.
We accept you, Gamora Zenuburi.
Pretty sure we're married now.
This is excruciating.
Video games are simulations of everything from very real emotions to the most fantastical situations. In some ways, games can be dry runs for some of the worst things that could ever happen to us, as well as escapes into worlds that we could only ever wish were real. Bring these two elements together, the metaphorical empowerment of superhero comics and the emotional simulation of video games, and you have a recipe that people have loved across generations of consoles. Here, in this intergalactic battle against the Church and the Dark Lord they serve, Magus is a great choice of villain because he's ultimately a metaphor for rejecting maturity and vulnerability, and instead choosing illusion, the past, and an insular life. Guardians gives us the chance to balance the cosmically heroic and the emotionally real. And while I love jumping into this galaxy-spanning action-adventure as a Guardians fan, it also pushed me to reflect on my own growth and hang-ups as a person. It made me think about the ways in which I've been shaped by my family as a child, how I choose to let those early years continue to influence who I am, the ways in which I unknowingly perpetuate cycles, when I try to break those cycles, and the person that I want to be for the sake of my family and my friends. It made me want to be a better person, not just for me, but for the people generations from now who will be shaped by me, for better or worse. I've known people who choose not to grow, who can't grow, who are too far gone for growing. I don't want to be that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Guardians really makes you feel like a struggling space mercenary turned potential deadbeat dad. Eventually, each Guardians member is affected by the promise. And what we learn is that while the promise will reunite you with the loved ones you lost, it's all a lie. And the only extremely painful way to free yourself is to kill these loved ones in your dream, losing them all over again. Even in his promise-controlled mindscape, Drax is haunted by Thanos, unshakable in his belief that even though he killed the villain, the Mad Titan is somehow still alive. The promise, and the ways in which we all cling to our visions of the past out of comfort, nostalgia, and fear, is inherently flawed. You can't be a good father, a good friend, a good sibling, a good child, if you aren't living in the here and now. That's Peter's struggle. Eventually, we learn that Ko-Rel adopted Nikki to protect her from the Kree's purity law enforcement, and in the aftermath of the game, Peter and the Guardians adopt her as well, cementing themselves as a family unit by choice. Guardians' fake-out ending and its true final boss have a nice amount of subversion to them, emphasizing that even though our heroes have absolutely grown as people, they haven't completely changed who they are. Especially for Peter's wisecracking, immature approach to danger.
Time to get it through your oversized skull! We don't give in to anyone! I mean, seriously, have you met us?
That's right! We're the Guardians of the Galaxy!
We have business cards.
While the choices that players make along the way will have some effects on how the story plays out, especially in who does or doesn't come to the Guardians' aid by the end, the choices made are more about expansion of the story and less about branching narratives. There is one ending to GOTG. That's it. I'm sure some see that as a weakness to a game that involves so many choices, but I won't fault Eidos because I love this story so much, and I think the ending is really strong. This is an inspirational game, And it's because our heroes are stronger together that they can save trillions of lives. And it all depends on convincing Nikki to let go of the promise and accept the death of her mother, even if it's the most painful thing she'll ever do.
Whatever happens, you're not alone. Okay?
Thank you.
Just like the Guardians movie, it's only possible by being vulnerable, reaching out, and letting the people we love know that we're there for them, no matter what they're going through. Given that there's no open world here, once Guardians is done, it's done. But I loved this story so much that I was happy to play it all over again, to see the little diversions this story and its characters could make along the way. As of now, there are no announced plans for a Guardians sequel due to its lower than expected sales. And I think that's a real shame, because this is easily my favorite superhero game of the last decade. Thankfully, Guardians tells a very complete story, giving each character a fully realized arc and being a really satisfying experience. Sure, there are plenty of ideas they could pick up and run with for a second or a third game, Thanos in particular. Maybe ditch the pointy hat, but it's not necessary for me to love this team. Of course, one of the strengths of superhero stories is how their long-running nature gives fans the chance to experience complex stories, vast worlds, and intricate characters that take years to fully explore. And I can only imagine that this version of the Guardians would grow even more in the hearts of fans if given the chance. Whether or not another game comes, I'll always be thankful for this story of vulnerability, family, and the strength needed to embrace your life here and now. Thanks for watching today's video, and the first video I've done about superheroes in a little while. The Guardians game is just a little over a year old now, and when I ended up playing this game last year, I immediately fell in love with it, and came to absolutely adore this version of the team. Obviously, as I talked about in the video, this is my own personal favorite version of the Guardians. And of course, I'm a fan of the comic version and the movie version as well, and the Abnett and Lanning version of the Guardians is probably my favorite version in the comics. This one hit all the right notes for me. Every character is explored in depth, I love the relationships they have with one another, I really enjoyed the action, the story was so satisfying, I really enjoyed all the different worlds they go to, the cast of deep-cut characters was really fun to see, and I felt it to be a really emotionally touching story. So by the end of the game, they easily became my favorite version ever. There are small things about the game that could be improved, and I already mentioned them in the video, but it's really rare to find a truly perfect game. In fact, I'm not entirely sure if one actually exists. Still, I think this is about as great of a Guardians game as you could absolutely hope for. And like I said, I think it's my favorite superhero game of the last decade. Yes, better than Spider-Man PS4, which I do enjoy. And probably my favorite since Arkham Origins. I really do like Arkham Origins. I think that's a really underrated game. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Guardians of the Galaxy game, your own personal favorite version of the Guardians, what you would like to see in a sequel if they ever make it, and I really hope they do, and maybe even what you'd hope for in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is coming out this year at the time of this video's publication. As always, thank you to my patrons for their continued support, and if you'd like to be a patron, it's only $1 a month for early access to every video and exclusive Patreon-only reviews. So until next time, I hope that this video encouraged you to either replay the Guardians game or pick it up for the first time, because it absolutely deserves a little bit more love.